Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Red One, number 2 would be Venom: The Last Dance, number 3 would be The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, number 4 would be Heretic, and number 5 would be The Wild Robot. And I managed to get 5 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. Hell fucking yes! The people on screen right now also managed to get their predictions right. Here are your shoutouts. Congratulations. So yeah, pretty easy. Like, the only big release was Red One, and then you had a movie like A Real Pain, which I kind of figured it wouldn't get enough traction to get into the top 5. I think it'll probably get some Oscar nominations, so maybe it'll, keep making money as it goes along, but as of right now, I don't think it's top 5 worthy at the moment. And if you're wondering, Jackson, can I get like an in detail thoughts about Red One in this one? Like, have you seen it? When you talk about the movie and the box office stuff, can you also just like give me your opinion? I don't have to, because I did already record a very long review for Red One. I haven't edited it yet, but it's gonna be a long one. So that will be coming soon. It's crazy. I'm doing fucking reviews again. Oh my god, what the fuck happened to me? So look forward to that. But speaking of Red One, let's just dive right on into it. It did get number 1 this week, and now, of course, much has been talked of about how the budget is really fucking high. Ballooned to $250 million. That's the initial production budget on this thing. So it basically needs to make so much more money. More money than maybe any Christmas film has ever made before in order to break even. Now, this movie was originally made for streaming. They, of course, have made the pivot to go to the theaters. And maybe there's a part of them, since this is like still a co-production with Amazon MGM, I'm pretty sure. So maybe there is a part of them that is like, we don't need to make everything back right away. We just need to make some of it back. I honestly, I don't know. But either way you look at it, this opening is not very good for the budget that it has. Domestically, it opened to $34 million. Now, I saw some estimates saying like it's gonna aim under this, but it got over 30 million, so there you go. It was able to, I guess, beat some expectations, some late in the day expectations of people going like, I'm not sure about this. Still doesn't make up for the rest of the budget here. Worldwide, it's only bumped up to 84 million. So right away, you can kind of see, yeah, they're in a bit of a pickle. And of course, opening mid-November, there's a chance that they can gain some legs throughout the holiday season. People who didn't see it right away, just waiting for a more appropriate Christmas time for themselves, they're like, okay, now we can go see it when it's mid-December or something like that. Maybe that'll happen. I doubt it, if I'm gonna be honest, and I know stranger things have happened with the box office before, and you can never quite predict everything, but the fact that Gladiator, and Wicked is next week, and then Moana 2 is falling right after, and then in December you got Sonic coming up, and Mufasa the Lion King, I'm sure a couple others that I'm forgetting, but those are kind of like the big ones that are approaching. I just do not see a reality where Red One, is able to still hold its own in a strong way, you know what I mean? In a way where you're like, actually, yeah, this run is actually quite successful. So yeah, it's not looking good. And I know I've made excuses for like an Apple Plus release before. Like I've talked about like Argyle or like Killers of the Flower Moon, or, insert other Apple productions here where I've mentioned like, this is mostly going to go to a streaming service. So this is just getting it into theaters is kind of like the extra thing, I'm pretty sure. When it came to Argyle though, and even like Fly Me to the Moon, I think I was able to like approach a bit more of like okay, goddammit though. You know what I mean? Like, okay, these are still not making any money with these budgets though. So like, if you're only betting on just the streaming numbers and the release there, okay, but what the fuck, man? You know what I mean? Like, how profitable can you be with streaming? Because, there's a lot of, like, questioning of the legitimacy of streaming. Like, how much money are they actually making? So, although it doesn't have, like, the Amazon Prime original logo attached to the front, it is still technically the Amazon MGM co-production. So, yeah, I'm going to assume that, they're betting on some streaming, sure, because they announced it as that, but I'm sure there's a part of them that is like, we really could have used some money, though, like real money, theater money. We're gonna look at some stats for $7 Productions right now that seem the most appropriate. As far as opening weekends, it did have an opening 34 million over Red Notice. Of course, that was the Netflix film. 27 million over Fighting with My Family, 11 million over League of Super Pets, 10 million over Skyscraper, and 16 million over Baywatch. It is 1 million below the openings of Jungle Cruise and Rampage, 2 million below Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, 25 million below Jumanji The Next Level, 26 million below Hobbs and Shaw, and 33 million below Black Adam. So it's kind of smack dab in the middle for $7 Productions as far as opening. They've gone higher, but they've certainly had lower too. It's funny how like the highest opening weekend on here, Black Adam, it technically is still a flop. You know what I mean? And, you know, not to say, I'm not trying to paint the picture, Dwayne has never had any box office hits under his production company. Obviously, we mentioned the 2 Jumanji films. I think Hobbs and Shaw did okay for what it had. It's not everything here. I think it's mostly just like, you know, your Black Adams, your League of Super Pets, Baywatch definitely underperformed from my memory, and then you have Red One. So it's like, it's just a hodgepodge of all rock vanity projects, except for Fighting With My Family, sort of. The sort of is because he gives himself an extended cameo in that, and he puts himself on the poster as if he's like a co-lead or something like that. But you know what I mean? It's just kind of like a hodgepodge of just like, this stuff clicked, this stuff didn't, and even when it seemed like this stuff was clicking, it overall didn't. So it's... you know what I mean? As far as overall domestic runs, it did outgross Red Notice, obviously, because of Netflix, and it's 12 million over Fighting With My Family. It needs 34 million now until it outgrosses Skyscraper. Worldwide, since it's sitting at 84 million, it is 84 million over Red Notice, and 43 million over Fighting With My Family, but that places it 119 below League of Super Pets. So there you go, you know, it's still got a bit of ways to go domestically and worldwide to climb up the ladder. Will it hold over well enough throughout the holiday season? I mean, fuck, man, I don't know. It's a big action movie Christmas film that you technically can take your families to see, but there's also a couple other family films coming out, other movies that have people's anticipation and hype, so I don't see it genuinely, I don't see it happening with this one. Oh well, who cares? Let's move on to number 2, which is Venom: The Last Dance, making 7 million, adding to a domestic total of 127 million, so it's 86 million away from the original and Let There Be Carnage at this point. Worldwide, it is sitting at $436 million. They are about 44 million away from quadrupling its initial production budget of 120 million. I think give it another week or so and it'll squeak by there. It needs 65 million to catch up to Let There Be Carnage. So yeah, getting closer to Let There Be Carnage. So as far as like people saying like it underperformed, you know, this is a flop, you know, writing it off kind of immediately, it's like, no, it's just like I said, like I've been saying, it's the trajectory of like just this trilogy that doesn't really like improve. Like, I mean, the critic score on Rotten Tomatoes for Let There Be Carnage kind of improved, but you know, I think a lot of people were still kind of like, yeah, it's not for me though, and if you didn't really like the first one, it's not that different from that one. So that kind of word of mouth continued to stick, and then you get to this one, and it's like, yeah, no one is, instead of going like, the other 2 movies are rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, Last Dance is fresh. It's like, no, it's still rotten. So it's like, it's having the trajectory that a series like this that has been reviewed in these ways is gonna have, you know? And that's their own damn fault. Number 3 is The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, a movie you can say is definitely going to be more profitable than Red One, ayo, making 5.4 million, adding to a domestic total of 19 million. No worldwide totals yet, but they're 1 million off from doubling their initial production budget of 10 million. Obviously, so they're in the clear, they're good. For Kingdom Story Company, it did outgross Ordinary Angels by just a couple 100,000. It's now 1 million away from Unsung Hero. Currently, it is in the top 4 domestic runs for that company. Since there's no worldwide totals right now, I'm not going to look at that section of their page on thenumbers.com, so let's move on. We're good. We talked about it. It's more profitable than The Rock, which I'm sure he might be a little embarrassed by. Obviously, if you just look at the numbers, yes, Red One has technically made, you know, more money if you're just looking at the numbers here. But when you do factor in like the budgets, how much are they actually gaining from what they've made, you know, with their box office sales, Best Christmas Pageant Ever is going to clear, absolutely, as discussed. Anyways, let's move on to number 4, which is Heretic, making 5.1 million, adding to a domestic total of 20 million, and then worldwide it is sitting at 25 million. We didn't get an official budget, but according to Wikipedia, it was at least 10 or below 10. So since worldwide it is sitting at 25, they have doubled a budget, maybe tripled if it's really like that low, but at the very least they have doubled that at least $10 million initial production budget. So there you go. Thank you, Hugh Grant, for your services. For A24, it did outgross Priscilla by a couple 100,000, just squeaked over. It's $5 million away from The Witch, but because it just squeaked by Priscilla, it is in the top 9 highest grossing A24 domestic runs ever. That's kind of to be expected since their opening weekend, their wide opening weekend did really well, and it's one of their best that A24 has had. And worldwide for A24, it did outgross Maxine from earlier this year by $4 million. It now needs $5 million until it gets to Priscilla. So it's in the top 11 for worldwide runs, but you know, it's gonna blaze through at least a couple more. And then, yeah, I don't know if it'll get to top 5 for either list. I'm not sure how much more it's gonna keep holding over well, but pretty solid, modest little run for a under $10 million movie. Good stuff. I guess I can also mention 65 real quick for for the directors. It is now domestically $12 million away from 65, worldwide $31 million away from 65. I would love it if they could close at least one of those gaps. If domestically they're able to make that 12 million and outgrow 65 somewhere, that would be dope. Number 5 is The Wild Robot, making $4.3 million, adding to a domestic total of $137 million. It needs $6 million until it outgrosses Kung Fu Panda 3 now for DreamWorks. Worldwide, it is sitting at $308 million. So it is outgrossed Rise of the Guardians by $2 million and now needs $13 million to catch up to Megamind, which is pretty fantastic if you ask me. You know, I'm glad this one's doing well. Can't wait for the sequel that they announced is in development. And I can't wait for the inevitable live-action remake. Since fucking DreamWorks is following Disney's playbook now, you know, we got the first look image of the How to Train Your Dragon live action one. It's only a matter of time before they look through everything else and like, what else can we do live action? Wild Robot? Why not? Why the fuck not? It's so great when like you see I know it's a first look image and it's not the trailer yet, but it's just wonderful to see something that is just so devoid of any kind of like interesting imagery in just one picture, you know, like you look at the animated film and it's like, that looks great. And then you look at the live action one, it's like, you know, like something's lost there in the translation, you know? And if it's anything like these Disney live action remakes, it's just going to prove the point. Like, we already had a great version of this film. Why are you remaking it? But it's less good or not as good, you know, like you're trying to recreate iconic images, but if they don't look as good or better than what we've already gotten in animated form, then what the fuck are you doing? Man, DreamWorks gets a solid win here, but then I'm reminded like, oh yeah, but they're, you know, like they're a film company like anyone else. They're gonna fuck up any day now, and this is kind of the beginnings of that, I guess. At least the long cycle till we get that movie. Fuck me. Anyways, let's move on to number 6, which is Smile 2, making $2.9 million, adding to a domestic total of $65 million. It places it $40 million away from the original film. Worldwide, it is sitting at $131 million, so that's $86 million away from the original at this point. But we've already talked enough about how it's good, you know? So it's good. And I don't have any negative spin to add, unlike DreamWorks' Wild Robot. So let's just move it along to number 7, which is Conclave, making $2.8 million, adding to a domestic total of $26 million. The worldwide numbers are still not enough yet to bump it up drastically so. They're still $14 million off at this rate from doubling their initial production budget of $20 million, but at least getting over the initial point with these domestic numbers is pretty damn good. And like we always keep talking about with like these awards hopefuls, especially this one, because it's looking like as far as like odds go, this one's gonna really clean up. I think it'll still be able to outgross that doubling point at some point, whether it's now or it's later. We just have to wait and see, and I'm excited to see when, you know. Number 8, Hello, Love Again, a sequel to a film I've never heard of. I saw this one in the Fandango listings, obviously too late. I was looking like this weekend, and I was like, is that even gonna make it in? But it did, making $2.37 million. Not sure what the budget of this thing is, but good on you, you know? Number 9 is A Real Pain, making $2.3 million, adding to a domestic total of only $3.03 million. Not sure what the budget of this thing is. I'm going to assume it's pretty low, like on the lower end. Obviously, a worldwide total would help to see if they were like in a clear of some kind, just how much it's being bumped up, if at all. This could be a movie that just makes kind of like a low amount domestically, and then that's kind of it. This is another one, though, that is an awards hopeful, so we'll see what else is added to it. This is a great movie. Go check it out. If you can, if you want. I would say even if you don't want to, check it out, because I liked it, so you have to see it now. Give it a shot, damn it. Oh man, I think I predicted like it normally with some of these movies I would say like, well, if the numbers are low enough, maybe it'll get into the top five. But for this one, I was like, I think it's just gonna be in the lower end, and I was right. Anyways, closing out the video though, number 10 is Anora, making 1.8 million, adding to a domestic total of 10.5 million, and then worldwide it is sitting at 20.3. So they have tripled its initial production budget of 6 million. They now need about 4 million until they quadruple it. They're on a roll, and Oscar nominations, any award nominations aren't even out yet. So Anora, being a big front runner for winning certain awards, already making its money back. I mean, they're just in a really great spot for people rediscovering it even later on, in award season time. So that's just really exciting. I'm happy for it. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top five. Next week, we got our Barbenheimer of 2024, allegedly. I mean, I say allegedly, but it is looking like these are going to clean up. Probably, maybe not as much as Barbenheimer did, but pretty decently enough. Glicked. So I think number one is going to be Wicked. I think the hype and the campaign around this is too massive to miss, and people are going to want to check this out. It's been on Broadway forever, and as far as I know, there has not been like a recorded version, or at least not one that's like readily available, because I checked, is it streaming somewhere? If I can I buy the recorded version? And I couldn't find anything immediately. So this is one that I'm assuming there are plenty of people out there that have not been exposed to it one way or the other. They've always heard about it though, and this is their chance to see it. I think it's going to blow up at the box office. And then number two, Gladiator 2. There is still a lot of hype for this, even if Russell Crowe isn't back. It doesn't matter. He's dead. Don't bring him back. Not the actor, the character. But I think there's still a lot of hype because finally Ridley Scott is going back, to Gladiator, and then you have a cast with Denzel Washington, who's getting some early buzz for potential awards, and then Pedro Pascal, Paul Mescal, these up and coming actors that people are excited about. Not necessarily Pedro Pascal, but Paul Mescal and also Joseph Quinn. So good stuff to be excited for. That's going to be number two. I think number three will be Red One. I think it'll sort of hold over enough to stay at number three. And then number four, I think, will be, hope I pronounce this right, Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Spy, Assassin. That is allegedly the full title. It's an Angel Studios film, so I have to predict it's going to get in here somewhere. And then number five, I think, will be Venom, The Last Dance. But what are your predictions for next week's top five? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.